Mammography is one of the best screening tools to find breast cancer.
Breast cancer may not be preventable, but you can survive it through early detection. If you're a mother or grandmother, sister or best friend,
aunt or cousin,
we encourage you to know your risk, make healthy lifestyle choices, and to know what's normal for your body.
Get screened, get your mammogram annually.
We did!
The Bahamas on high alert as international concern over the Ebola virus continues. The Bail Amendment Act, nothing more than a delaying tactic, according to the Bar Association president. The former Governor General in full support of the constitutional amendment bills, and the nation's youth debate key issues. We've got those stories and more coming up tonight. I'm Dana Smith, and NB12 starts right now. Topping news tonight as more and more nations around the region restrict travel from Ebola-plagued countries. The Bahamas remains on high alert, according to Foreign Affairs and Immigration Minister Fred Mitchell, who said today the government hasn't ruled out a travel ban, but now isn't the time to panic. Meantime, opposition leader and former Minister of Health Dr. Hubert Minnis believes banning Bahamians from traveling to affected areas should also be an option.
The question as to whether at this point in time we should ban travel to those particular areas, West Africa, that are affected, I think it's something that needs to be considered, and it's something that the government should discuss at its cabinet level and make an announcement as to what their intention. I think we should consider at least banning Bahamians going to those particular areas.
International concern over the deadly Ebola virus continues, with several Caribbean nations imposing travel bans in an effort to keep the disease from reaching their shores. Jamaica, Guyana, Trinidad, St. Lucia, and Colombia have now prohibited entry into their countries by travelers from the Ebola-stricken West African nations. This as our closest neighbor to the north, the United States, reports its first Ebola death and confirms 2 more cases. With the Bahamas relying mainly on foreign visitors to maintain its economy, some have questioned if we will be the next Caribbean country to bar certain travelers. Health Minister Dr. Perry Gomez could not be reached for comment, but Foreign Affairs and Immigration Minister Fred Mitchell told NB12 today the nation is on high alert and a travel ban is a possibility, but the Bahamas has not yet reached a decision in that regard. He said, quote, "There is no ban of travelers to the Bahamas in place at the moment. The Bahamas has taken note of what other countries have done, and if at the end of the day the Ministry of Health, in concert with international protocol, says that's something that should happen, then it is possible for it to happen. But I can't say it is going to happen." Mitchell said the matter is a live issue with the government, and an announcement on the matter will come in due course if more measures are required. His comments come after Acting Chief Medical Officer Dr. Delon Brennan said it would be nearly impossible to prevent at least 1 case of the Ebola virus entering the Bahamas. Minnis said in addition to monitoring Bahamians traveling to and from Ebola countries, aggressively monitoring the nation's ports should also be another step.
Bahamians from the affected areas coming home must be placed in some form of quarantine until they have overcome the incubation period. And we must have all the resources and infrastructure in place at all of our ports of entrance, which means that we must aggressively monitor our ports.
When asked about this, Mitchell said today there are protocols in place already existing with regard to how you deal with persons suspected of communicable diseases coming into the Bahamas, and those will be followed. He added he understands Ebola has caused some anxiety amongst the public, but this is not a time to panic, but to act sensibly. Minnis said in addition to ensuring the country is prepared for any potential Ebola cases, the government must increase awareness about the deadly disease.
Bahamians must understand that this is a serious situation, and if it enters our country, it can have economic devastation that can be long-lasting. It can affect the quality of life of each and every one of us. This is not the time, this is the one time that we must all speak with one voice, and we must all work together as Bahamians to ensure that our borders and our country is safe.
The government passed a package of anti-crime bills in Parliament last month under the Bail Amendment Act. And now the president of the Bahamas Bar Association outlining why he believes the legislation probably won't help as the public appears to be losing confidence in the judicial system. Simone Davis reports.
President of the Bahamas Bar Association Ellsworth Johnson is calling on the government to fully meet the demands of the courts. He said the courts are disrupted in many areas and suggested that those issues are causing the judicial system to lose its value. He added that the Bail Amendment Act is a delay tactic and the courts are not running a smooth operation.
I see the new Bail Amendment Acts. They're nothing more than delay tactics. If somebody commits a crime today, why can't we have them before the courts within 3 to 6 months being tried, so that the community would get a sense that justice, even though sometimes they say it grinds slowly, but it's swift and it's direct. So when you say 3 years or so many years is not an inordinate delay, what does that say? It simply says that matters are not coming before the courts.
The Bail Amendment Act is a part of the government's initiative to reduce the number of incidents in which accused people can claim that their case was not tried within a reasonable period of time. The law requires judges to take witness safety into consideration when determining whether to grant bail. Johnson also revealed that apart from the disrupted judicial system, the court facilities are not in the best conditions.
And that there are the other issues that you don't hear about, like about a year ago when the Court of Appeal roof just fell in. And so the court is disrupted. When the sewer system breaks down, they don't tell you about that, but they always are quick to say that the courts are not working. The courts are not responsible for their own purse. It's for the executive. Any good government will ensure that the judicial arm of the government have what is necessary to do its work.
He said the main focus should be on putting in place proper mechanisms in terms of technical support and public support.
Johnson added that an important factor that greatly affects the judicial system in the Bahamas is public confidence, which he is worried about because he says it seems to be non-existent.
Public confidence in the judicial system has been acknowledged by the United Nations to be very important. If you lose public confidence in the system, the whole country go into a spin. And so I think that the justices are working very hard. They can't speak publicly as any other ministry can do, but there are certain things that they need in order to operate and function properly. Get the prisoners there on time. Do proper investigations. Have proper facilities.
Reporting for NB12, I'm Simone Davis.
Former Governor General Sir Arthur Foulkes says he fully supports the 4 bills relating to the constitutional referendum, insisting it's a no-brainer that women should have the same rights as men. The veteran politician also insists it's mind-boggling there is still discrimination in a 21st century Bahamas. Jasmine Brown has more in this report.
The debate has continued to rage over the constitutional referendum, and over the past several months, the controversial issue has undergone a number of changes, including the most recent, the fact that it has been put off until next year. Well, the former Governor General Sir Arthur Foulkes says he believes that's not a bad thing. Sir Arthur says he is throwing his full support behind the referendum simply because Bahamians should not live in a society where people are discriminated against.
Women are just as capable as men, just as intelligent as men. I mean, it is stupid even having to say that. It is so patently obvious, you know.
The former Governor General says he was surprised when he heard Bahamians proudly declare their opposition to some of the bills on various local shows.
It is surprising that people can talk like that in this day and age. And what is also surprising is that having regard to our history as a people, where most of us, the majority of Bahamians, suffered so much from discrimination and inequality that we would want to, you know, apply that to somebody else. I mean, that's mind-boggling. You would have thought that persons who were discriminated against would be the last ones in the world to want to discriminate.
Sir Arthur also addressed concerns that some politicians have raised with Bills 2 and 4. As it relates to Bill 2, which seeks to enable a Bahamian woman who marries a foreign man to secure the same access to Bahamian citizenship for their spouse, some observers fear that the provision will be abused. The concern surrounding the second bill is that it would spawn marriages of convenience. But Sir Arthur said that is no excuse not to go ahead with the changes.
A privilege that you are entitled to under the Constitution that isn't abused by somebody every day. That's no excuse to say that because it will be abused, we don't do it. That's not an argument.
Bill 4, which has garnered the most opposition, seeks to end discrimination based on gender. However, there are concerns that the bill will lead to challenges in support of same-sex marriage. Sir Arthur insists it's a non-issue at this time.
The homophobic thing, that's, I don't know why we're making that an issue in this. We're going to have that debate sometime in the future, but not that's not involved with this particular issue. I think that representatives of the people have to recognize this. A representative has a responsibility to lead his people. He must listen to his people, have dialogue with his people. But there are times when he must lead, or she must lead, and say to the people like Mandela did one time in South Africa, look, this is the way we ought to go.
Several Free National Movement MPs have withdrawn their support of Bill 4 after consultation with their constituents. The opposition members said they want the government to further amend the bill to make it unlawful to discriminate based on a person's sex at birth. But Sir Arthur said the questions are clear enough.
I certainly hope that we do not attempt to make any amendments that will make us look silly in the eyes of the world. I hear people talking about making this clearer. To me, it seems clear. To the Commission, it is clear. To those, I'm not a lawyer, but those people like Sean McQueen who have the greatest confidence in, the bills are clear. You don't want to add things that are extraneous.
The referendum has been delayed to sometime next year. Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Former Bar Association President Wayne Monroe has warned that so-called discrepancies in provisions for online gaming in the current gaming bill and regulations were a major impediment to the web shop industry and could drive Bahamian web shop owners to other jurisdictions. Monroe, who represents a group of web shop owners, told Guardian Business the current regulations could cause Bahamian web shop owners to register for online gaming licenses in foreign jurisdictions, including Malta and Belize. Under the 2014 Gaming Bill and Regulations, web shops will be taxed 11% of taxable revenue, while casinos are taxed 5%. Monroe added the recent regulations heavily favored the casino sector by prohibiting web shops from participating in new gaming markets, specifically through proxy gaming, which employs stand-ins to place bets. Despite these complaints, Monroe acknowledged the current regulations went further than any other previous legislation.